Well, just like that, ladies and gentlemen, half of LCS Rostermania for 2026 is already over. We know basically 5 of the 8 teams, 3 still remaining. I'll have another video in a week or so whenever the remaining pieces fall to see where everybody stands, give everybody a final report card and final grade. But we've got a bunch of moves to go over to keep you updated with what is happening in North America, as well as some of my happiness with it and my concerns. Let's start with the bottom, though. You know it's not going to be a good start when in Sheep Esports live stream talking about them, the only thing that was really noted was they don't have a budget. Like, that does a lot to inspire confidence. And I'm sorry, like, this isn't on Sheep, obviously. They're just reporting the news as it is. But I find it hard to believe that teams could come out here and be like, yeah, we just don't really have a budget to work with, therefore we're just picking up scraps. It's like, okay, if you knew that you weren't going to have a budget to work with, like, you should be looking at some of the top amateur players in the region, start developing some talent, try to make a name for yourself. The fact that we're, at least at the time of recording this, November 17th, and Dignitas has nothing. Like, absolutely nothing. We know Caney is actually going to Isras in the south, so we know that Caney will definitely not be here. From there, no clue. The only thing is the head coach and Swiffer. So it's like, okay, I don't quite know how to tell you to get excited about being a Dig fan. Really don't. No excuse if they don't even have all that much money, but I mean, they could still figure it out. We'll see how it lands. But as of right now, I don't know what to tell you. The one I feel bad for personally is Disguised. The only person, well, I guess technically if you include Ido as their head coach, the only person that they have remaining is Castle. And I know everybody was hoping that Castle would be able to find his way onto like Team Liquid or a top team this year. It turns out his entire team leaves around him, and he's the only one left on DSG, which DSG is put in an impossible situation here where they have to keep signing players to one-year deals because they don't know. I mean, well, they could sign more, but they're not as of right now, just because they could get relegated. They're the only team in this league that faces relegation. So every player is incentivized to go elsewhere, which is why I think a big change that we need to see for this promotion relegation thing is I think it should be a 2-year long slot and we increase the amount of teams to 10 if possible. I did a whole thing on stream about how I understand the financial repercussions of this, how that's not necessarily possible, but I just think it would be better for North American talent. I believe it would be better for North America as a whole to get back to 10 teams rather than the 8 that we have now, which would then allow you to have 3 teams where, say, one of those, or even maybe you do a 3-year contract, okay? You have 7 partnered teams and 3 teams that once you promote, you get 3 years at it and you get your fair chance. Like, that to me sounds better. And like DSG can actually build something towards the future than this happening every offseason. Like, I just feel bad for Disguise at this point. And honestly, I wouldn't blame him if he wants to freaking leave after this year, because what can you really build in that situation whenever nobody else is subject to the same thing that you are? It's tough. We'll see how that roster comes together later. I'd imagine they'll get some North American cheaper talent, but beyond that, I mean, what else do you say for DSG? As for where the pieces of DSG went, well, that would be Sentinels. They picked up the core 3 of Darkwings, Rahel, and Huhi, notably taking Golden Glue as their head coach from 100 Thieves, who no longer exist in the LCS. And honestly, decent core to start off. This squad solidly won their promotion back into the LCS. I think all 3 of these guys are at least like right where they should be in the top 8 of North America. I know it doesn't sound like high praise, but the reality is it's a starting point. And when you look at top lane and jungle, there are options open. I mean, just the list that I got here. Shaden, Exu, Odilan, Yuji for jungle. For top lane, we still have no eyes on Surdy, on Dokla, on Photon, and Impact. Like, you have options available to round this out a little bit and see if you can develop Darkwings and Rahel into something that maybe is more sustainable for your organization. Now, I know Sentinel said that they want to have a heavy prio on content and making sure that people are enjoying what they're seeing. I'm not sure exactly like what other pieces you put on this roster to make sure that it is an enjoyable experience, because the biggest thing you need if you're going to be one of these bottom 4 teams is a reason for people to watch you. Think like a Calist in like a KCB, or like these younger players that could eventually become the face of your franchise. That's what you're looking for. Could Darkwings be that? Possibly. Could Rahel be that? Possibly. Huhi, not so much. But like, that's what you're looking for when it comes to Sentinels, as well as obviously just good content all around. And Golden Glue is a coach that has proven to be able to take academy talent and make them look pretty good. So That's the angle that I think they should probably go with this, given that they have 2 slots left remaining. But who knows, honestly, like Sentinels could go anywhere with this. That takes care of the 3 rosters that we still have big holes and questions with. There's only one other roster that still has a hole open, actually, and that's FlyQuest, who on paper have put together a very entertaining roster to watch. I know this is not a squad that people are going to look at and be like, yeah, that immediately is going to win. Gakos obviously was a little bit worse than Blippo, so slight downgrade, even if obviously Gakos could develop into something much bigger. It's a downgrade in terms of relative skill before people say that it's a downgrade in terms of the player himself. I have faith that Gakos will be able to elevate to that status. I'm curious to see if they keep Blippo on and FlyQuest as a coach. Blippo being completely MIA from this Rostermania and offseason with no conversations being had is a weird one for sure. Okay, well, not weird. I don't think he should be at FlyQuest. I think if FlyQuest wants to like save their brand image at this point and like continue to push this narrative, especially with ThinkHard coming in as head coach, yeah, I like him not being a part of this and kind of moving on from that era of FlyQuest. It's not like they don't have the creators to help push their narrative. You got Basil, you have LS. They'll be able to tell amazing stories with all of these young players and really try and spotlight them and help them grow here in North America. Griffin getting his first starting spot in the LCS after being with T1 rookies, going to Loud with the CB Lowell. I love this roster. I know people are going to be down a little bit on Quad and on Masu given their performance last year, but I value ThinkHard pretty heavily as a coach. And they're apparently, like I thought they were going to go for somebody like Ayla in support, a veteran that could help shot call and help direct things. But they said they're having open tryouts to bring another rookie. And so this is just going to be a young squad that is all hands and willing to go at it. And honestly, I really like that. I think that's a lot of fun, and FlyQuest is going to be must watch this entire year to see how it develops. Not all these players might remain on the roster next year. Some of these players might not work out. But if they can find the core pillars that help them build into something into the future, yeah, like that's great. Cool. Now, for the top 4 or like the completed rosters, these are the 4 teams that you would expect that would probably, at least off the bat, stand a chance at contending for a title this upcoming split. We'll start with the one that everybody pretty much knew for the most part, which is C9. Even though they did go with APA due to Loki stepping away and going back to his family in Korea, I still like what this roster has. And bringing in I Will Dominate as an assistant coach, I think is 1, great for content. 2, I love how I Will Dominate thinks about the game. So I'm excited to see what he's able to do with the squad now that he's going to be there full time. Anero as a head coach over Reaper, we'll see. I mean, I think Dom is going to be doing more of the heavy lifting when it comes to draft. Head coach, I mean, I don't know the individual mechanics of it. I just know I'm not a big fan of how Reaper drafted. I think C9 is going to be unlocked now that they don't have to worry about that personally. I think the Reaper experiment kind of ran its course, and now that they have a new head coach coming in and you have these players, this for C9 is like, okay, they've set their, I guess this would be their back office. No, I'm trying to think of the proper way to say this because it's not front office nor back office. Like this is just management, like GM, head coach, assistant coach. Like they have that set. That is clearly going to be the core that they seemingly build around for years to come. For these players, this is like their chance to prove themselves. And this feels like if C9 is ever going to win with this squad in particular, has to be now. Has to be like spring, because I see other squads in this league developing as time goes on, whereas we know the relative ceiling of at least 3 of these players. APA, we haven't seen his ceiling on a team other than TL that has immensely exploded. Thanatos, we know can be good, but hasn't hit some of those peaks yet. Sven and Vulcan is a very known quantity. Blabber is a very known quantity. I think you need to see this roster do well early on, or it could possibly lead to problems. But I'm still excited about this. I think APA with a solid team should be fun, even if most people are down on it. Let's jump down to one that I honestly, as of last night, was not feeling great about. And then I slept on it, and the more that I think about it, the more I'm honestly okay with it. And I think it's because I didn't rate Jose Dioto where I probably should. I'm still not a big fan of Morgan coming in for Team Liquid. I don't think like grabbing like 7th to 8th place or like gatekeeper, quote unquote, top laners from the LCK is like the smartest move. I think you saw what happened with Umti, where yes, he performed, but like it's not the same as when you're able to hit on somebody like Quid, or if you have honestly North American talent in there that can actually help compel the story. You have somebody like Dokla that I think fills a very similar role to Morgan, but possibly could be on the same level. I know people are gonna be like, oh, but an LCK player is automatically better. I'd still rather see Dokla personally, But I get it because this roster is very much built to win now, okay? They've got Quid in his prime now. You've got Yon in his prime. Core JJ is a bit of a question mark given how last year went, but everybody speaks highly of him. So you have a powerhouse jungler in Jose Dioto that we know can absolutely pop off. And Morgan needs to be that role player that is able to fill out this roster, be a stable rock, and allow the two carries in Quid and Yon to win. I think this TL roster, on paper, is actually the strongest roster in the LCS after this offseason, at least starting off. Obviously, it can develop, and we'll see how gameplay goes from there. But like when I'm looking at what rosters that have been put together so far give me the most immediately, it's Team Liquid. But the problem with those Team Liquid rosters that has happened consistently in the past is they've done in 2022, 2021, they tried to put that powerhouse roster together with Alfari as well. They're able to get close, but they're never quite able to win it. And that's because I feel like the ceiling of some of those rosters can be a little bit limited. Now, you have Quid and Yon. The ceiling should, in theory, be limitless. But you do look at Morgan and Core JJ as like big question marks where if they do falter or if the bad sides are shown, this roster could fall from first to fourth or fifth if it implodes. So while I get it and I understand it more than I did when I went to sleep last night, it is going to be interesting to see how this roster plays out. And having Jose Dioto back in North America is a lot of fun. For a roster that only changed out one piece, man, did they hit the jackpot on this one. Now, full disclosure, I have not watched Zinni play. I know Don Jake was on this wave of like, everybody's hyping up Zinni when they haven't even seen him play. Sure, I'll give you that. But I have to listen to the opinion of those that do watch him to get a valid, kind of credence of where things are at. In the same way with Quid. Like, I didn't know anything about Quid, but when people told me, it's like, yeah, this kid is like legitimately cracked, trained under Chovy for years, and look at where he's at now. Yeah, I tend to believe that. So when people are saying similar things about Zinni, how he could have earned his spot on DKT had BDD not played insanely well at Worlds, and you look at the Shopify roster that just needed a mid laner to be able to qualify to Worlds realistically, like they were not that far off with Fudge playing well, Contracts playing well, all while being held back by a mid laner that could not keep up with the rest of the roster. Yeah, I'm liking this. Little question mark for me in Seos, keeping him. I think if they could have gotten like Busio or somebody like that, this roster immediately goes like number one in the league. Right now, to me, it's sitting there solidly at like second to third. But the potential, given of where these players' ceilings can be, with a mid laner that could also pop off in Zinni, yeah, this is going to be fun to watch. Oh my god, I cannot wait to see Shopify on the Rift. Lud and Charlie, I better see you guys posting content about this squad because, man, do you have a good one in Zinni. And if you can ride the wave of Zinni, similar to what 100 Thieves fans did with Quid, you've got something cooking. Make sure you got that content out there and it'll be fun. But probably the most talked about team this offseason for a wild reason that, like, I guess they just had money that they didn't spend last year. First year in, hey, it was what it was. Now that they're officially in the LCS, hey, let's ball out and pay for the highest paid player in the West besides Caps and Inspired. So Inspired takes the bag and goes to Lion. It's like, okay, well, what are you going to put around him? Zamudo, I think a great young piece. This is one of those ones where I think you put Inspired with somebody that can develop into something amazing like Zamudo, and that's going to be fun to watch. Even if it on paper is not as strong, even if on paper it's not as strong as Team Liquid is straight out the gate, the potential for the Zamudo Inspired combo, as well as Saint, if we're being completely honest, is really freaking good. I do worry about the mental a little bit because Saint was known to be a bit of a tilter last year. Granted, the team around him wasn't as great, but that's the reputation that carried it around. You pair that with Inspired, I don't know. Maybe that... Those types of things are impossible to judge when looking at Rostermania other than just based on the opinions and rumors of what we hear. But the bot lane is really interesting to me with this Lion squad. If you would have told me, like, hey, Inspired is going to a roster that he wants to win with, I wouldn't have said Isles at support. And that's no disrespect to Isles. He's never had like great rosters like this to play with, in my opinion. Like, I mean, you could technically argue the C9 roster that he was a part of, maybe, but for the most part, this is by far the most stacked lineup that he's ever had the chance to play with. Berserker, Inspired, a great mechanical player in Zamudo. Yeah. But I do look at this bot lane and I'm sitting there like, you compare Berserker Isles to Yon Core JJ. I'm still taking Yonkor JJ. You compare that to FBI Ayla, who were better than Yonkor JJ in playoffs. I would probably take FBI and Ayla. Speaking of which, where the f are they at? This Lion squad, like everybody's talking about them as a super team, and I'm just sitting here like, yeah, they could pop off if everybody's playing well. Absolutely, yeah, I see the vision, but I also see the downside that I feel like we're slightly glossing over with this squad. Maybe it'll be good, maybe it won't. Only time will tell. But I've got two main takeaways from the offseason so far. First is that we desperately need those 10 teams. Like, let's look at the list of top laners that currently do not have a team, with only 2 spots left in the league. Surdy, Dokla, who went to Worlds and is like one of the biggest superstars internationally right now. Photon, Impact, and Blippo. None of them have been linked to any team so far, and the best they're going to do is a bottom 3 team in the league, which Impact I get after the season that he had. Surdy, I think, deserves another chance. He did prove himself towards the end of last year. Dokla is a wild one to me. The fact that he is not linked with the team right now is just mind-blowing in so many different ways. And Photon, sure, I could see the argument. But FBI and Ayla also missing. In terms of top talent, I thought Toasty or Sahed would, or Sajed, I don't know how to pronounce his name. I'm sorry. I thought they might get a chance, which they still could with one of the 2 teams left remaining, but it doesn't feel as good. I don't know. This is one of those situations where it just feels like if we had 10 teams, a lot of these problems would be solved and you could potentially build something interesting with those guys. But it just, I don't know. The 8-team reality of this league really feels like it's hitting hard right now. And I know we didn't have the most amount of people from tier 2 to pull up this year in particular. Our top team from tier 2 was literally just Fake God Insanity. Like, Insanity is another one that probably deserves a chance. Mid lane, maybe DSG, maybe Disguise or Dignitas if they're willing to take a chance on him. But like, it is kind of all veteran pros that have been around for a bit. I get why not as many are promoted this year. Like, we are getting Gakkos, we're getting Griffin. Like, I think the names that we got so far are good. I wouldn't ask for too many more. But if we had 10 teams, it feels like it would really alleviate some of the problems that seemingly exist. Other than the fact that I have no freaking clue what Dignitas is doing this offseason. The second is that it does feel like our top talent is spread out, which for some people is going to be a problem. And I'm just warning you now, this isn't a problem that I have. This is a problem that others will have, is that the international results this year are going to be a little bit, I wouldn't worry about that yet, okay? Worry about domestic league. Worry about making sure we put on an entertaining product before we worry about going to get bitch slapped by China and Korea, which we know is going to happen. I don't care about that right now. But it is really fun to see our top talent spread out a little bit more in a world where nobody knows who is going to win this split. Like, this immediate Rostermania, barring one of the bottom teams putting together something miraculous out of nowhere, is going to be so much fun to watch. This lock-in tournament is going to be a blast with 4 teams that could realistically pull it out, and we have no clue who's going to show up on the day. That's awesome. But let me know your early thoughts. Who do you think has won the off-season so far? I will give my final gradings whenever everything is complete the next time I make a video on this. Friday, I'm going to talk about T1 and a little bit of the LCK off-season. Europe, I don't really think there's as much to talk about, being honest, other than the fact that they stole Busio, which I already made a video about. So I want to focus on T1 on Friday. But North American-wise, let me know what you think. Who are you a fan of? And if you are a 100 Thieves fan looking to go to a new place, did any of these rosters do anything for you? I know for me, a few of them did.